So yesterday morning, Nigel Farage came out of hiding to announce the biggest military operation in the English Channel since the Second World War. And by 4:30 yesterday afternoon, the French government had killed it. And the word they used to do it was sovereignty. Nigel Farage's favourite word, the word he built an entire career on, thrown back at him by the French Interior Ministry within about 6 hours of him standing up. Now, as I was preparing this script and getting my notepad up and Google on the go to fact-check this whole press conference, I noticed something a little odd, something a little off. And the more I watched it, it was like the policy falling over isn't even the interesting part. The interesting part is why this press conference happened at all. Because once you look at how it was put together, the fingerprints of the stage management are all over it. So let's go through it. What was announced, who got to ask about it, and how quickly it collapsed. First, just for context, Farage hasn't held a press conference in months. I mean, he used to do these weekly, which was great for me because I know every Monday that I would have a reform video that I could debunk. But bad for the country because he had the media turning up on demand and he was setting the agenda and everyone was dancing to his tune. Then the 5 million gift question started and the parliamentary standards investigation opened and he vanished from the format. Yesterday, he reappeared, flanked by Zia Youssef, to announce Operation Fortress.
Under Nigel's leadership, Reform UK will end this crisis for good. We will launch Operation Fortress, the biggest military operation in the English Channel since the Second World War.
Now that sounds new, it sounds enormous, he even waved his little pamphlet around. Except Farage admits in the same press conference that it's just a rehash of a policy they announced last year.
Look, this does not replace Operation Restoring Justice, not a bit of it. What it does is to update Operation Restoring Justice, which did, as an option, say we would consider this as the next step.
So it's just an update then to an existing policy, which itself was a version of something the government's already tried. You know, the Royal Navy was given primacy over boat crossings in 2022, and Downing Street was quick to point out today that crossings didn't fall at all during that period. Farage even concedes this himself in the press conference, calling the Navy vessels of that era great for a photograph that didn't actually achieve anything. His words about the approach, he's now rebranding with wartime music. So why announce a reheated policy with new name on a Monday morning? Well, Labour's response gives you their theory. It's a desperate bid to distract from Reform's growing sleaze scandals. And normally I would discount the opposition party saying opposition party things, but look at the timing. The first question of the entire press conference from BBC's Henry Zeffman wasn't about the policy at all. It was about Farage's finances.
Thank you very much, Mr Farage. This is an eye-catching hardening of your position on small boats. Why now? Is it an attempt to distract from questions about your finances and your party's finances? On which note, in 2024, did you negotiate a deal on what would happen to Reform's finances if you came back as leader at a time when you were suggesting you had no plans to return to electoral politics?
Why now? Because I think what happened in Ceuta over the weekend shows you just how serious this situation is. The British public are getting tired, and I do genuinely think that the Iranian threat is very, very real indeed. So we've gone further. By the way, I'd never ruled this option out in the past. I'd always said it was an option if it came to it. But I think actually, you know what, the country will get behind the message that we have a Royal Navy. It's there to protect this country from invasion, and that now is what it should be used for. In terms of, questions about money could go on for years, you know. I mean, look, I had no intention of returning to politics or as leader of Reform, but in the spring of that year, I did talk to Richard Tice about what the liabilities would be if I was to come back to that position. And you'd be a bit of a mug, wouldn't you, to walk into a job and not find out what the potential liabilities were. And they were substantial. They were substantial. In fact, without Richard, the party wouldn't have even survived. So that was useful for me to know, but it wasn't a deal, it wasn't an agreement, it was subject to if I came back. And if you want clarification on this, that came quite some time after the gift, which is perhaps the important point.
That's where the pressure is, and that's what this morning was built to bury. Which brings us to how the room itself was managed, and this is the bit that made me go back and rewatch the whole thing. Yes, it's true, it's another hour of my life that I'm never going to get back. Anyway, with about 40 minutes in, with British political journalists sat there waiting, Farage hands a question to Raheem Kassim of the National Pulse. Now, if you've not heard of this, I'm not surprised, because it's an American outlet, and if that name rings a bell, well, maybe it should, because Kassim is Farage's former chief of staff. He's a long-time aide and one of his closest allies in politics. And what probing question did this titan of journalism bring to the biggest military announcement since D-Day?
Thank you both. I'm sure it wouldn't have escaped your attention this morning that the first question you got was unrelated to the subject of the press conference, and I kind of wonder what are your thoughts on how the mainstream media has been treating you and those around you recently.
So yeah, his question was, why are the media being mean to you, Nigel? Would you like 2 uninterrupted minutes to complain about the journalists sitting either side of me? Which Farage gratefully took, using the time to play the victim about the press coverage and lob accusations at Labour figures.
Look, I just feel that there's been a one-sided pile-on against reform. I don't think people's family members would be... I don't think Kemi Badenoch's family members or Andy Burnham's family members would be subject to the harassment and increased security risk that mine have been. I've only spoken about a very little part of this. I don't believe it will. And, you know, if every time the name George Cottrell is mentioned, you write career criminal next to it, well, please make sure, folks, in the interest of fairness, you do the same with Louise Hay, and you make sure every time that Johnny Reynolds is mentioned, you do put next to it the fact that he had a false CV and that Angela Rayner didn't pay her tax. I think, you know, without appearing to be whingers, I do think we have come under a level of attack that would not be seen by another party if it was part of the establishment.
Now, I can't tell you the question was planted. I mean, I wasn't in the room. But what I can tell you is that a limited slot at a major announcement went to a leader's former own chief of staff, and he used it to serve his old boss the softest ball ever thrown in Westminster. So yeah, I'll leave you to come to your own conclusions on that one. And yet, even though it appears to be staged, even a managed room couldn't save this policy, because it kept contradicting itself with nobody laying a glove on it. The Telegraph's Poppy Coburn points out Reform's own document quotes a Navy source saying pushbacks aren't part of naval ethics. Farage's response is this.
You say in your own document, and you use the example of Operation Isotrope, and you quote a Navy source saying that pushbacks are not part of their ethics. Now, your plan, you say, is not about pushbacks, but correct me if I'm wrong, it is about forcibly escorting boats back. Do you think this plan will align with the Navy's ethics?
No. No pushbacks, no escorts. We're not escorting anybody anywhere.
Now, that's a bold claim, given that half an hour earlier, the policy he was describing by his own Home Affairs spokesman was this.
Make no mistake, His Majesty's Royal Marines will disembark them safely on the very shore they left that morning.
Royal Marines landing people on French beaches against France's will. Whatever you want to call that, rescue and return, a humanitarian mission, a lovely day out. International maritime law is clear that you can pick up people from a boat in danger, but you cannot deposit them in another country without that country's consent. The rebrand exists because the word pushback is the word that gets you taken to court. And the money's no better. Farage spends a full answer insisting the kit already exists. The clutters at Ramsgate, the spotter planes at Lydd. So this won't cost any more money than it's currently costing, and then only seconds later in the very same answer,
the only upgrade that would be needed here would be for a couple of naval patrol vessels to be in the Channel, and as I understand it, there are 3 of those currently at sea around the United Kingdom. We are spending all the money on these assets just to act as a taxi service on behalf of illegal criminal gangs, bringing people into Britain. I'm not upping the cost, I'm just saying these people will not be allowed to come.
So the only upgrade needed is more warships, and also there's no upgrade needed. So 2 budgets, 1 breath, and 0, and I mean it, 0 follow-ups from anybody in that room. Now, obviously, I am following the Reform finance story through every twist, because that's the thing Today was built to make you look away from. So subscribe if you want to keep across it, and memberships are open if you want to support the channel that way too. because by mid-afternoon, the whole performance had collapsed away. At 4:34 on Sky News, the French government's response was, well, pretty much this.
Some breaking news to bring you from the French government. It has responded to Reform UK's announcement, Operation Fortress, to tackle small boat crossings in the Channel. The idea of sending those boats back to France and Belgium. The French Interior Ministry says this would be a violation of French sovereignty, as well as a violation of maritime law and international law. Separately, as part of the measures put in place with the UK and the arrangements deployed at a local level, the Interior Ministry states that the number of crossings is down in 2026, down 50% as of July 31st, 2026, in comparison with the same period, 2025.
Sovereignty. Of all the words available to the French government, they picked the one Farage has spent 30 years shouting. Brilliant. The man who built Brexit on the sacred principle that no foreign power gets to override a nation's control of its own borders is now proposing to land troops on foreign nations' beaches without permission, and then generally seems surprised that the foreign nation objects. Sovereignty for me, dinghy for thee. So here's the result for Farage's grand return. A rebranded policy he's already announced, a wartime name for an approach that's already failed in 2022. A question gifted to his own former chief of staff, 2 self-contradictions nobody in the room challenged, and an entire thing dead on arrival by tea time, torpedoed by the French using his own catchphrase. He came out of hiding to take back control of the narrative, to set the agenda once again, and yet he lost control of it before the evening news. And have reform itself, as in the big machine, actually starting to get a little bit fed up of Farage? Well, to find that out, you need to watch the video that's on screen now. Thanks for watching, don't forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you next time.